The boy used to wake up early every morning, not because he was excited about the day, but because his mind never slept well. Before his feet touched the floor, his thoughts were already loud. He thought about other people, their success, their money, their confidence, their perfect lives. He opened his phone, and the comparing started again. Someone his age had a better job. Someone younger was already successful. Someone with less effort seemed happier. Every picture felt like a reminder. You are behind. You are late. You are not enough. The boy did not hate those people. He hated how small he felt after looking at them. He tried to work harder, but his heart was tired. Because when you compare yourself all the time, nothing you do feels enough. Even small wins felt empty. Even progress felt slow. Peace slowly disappeared. One evening, after a long day, he sat alone. Quiet room. No phone. No noise. And for the first time, he asked himself a simple question. Why am I racing people who are not on my path? That question stayed with him. It did not change everything that night, but something started to shift. This is where the story begins. Not with success, not with confidence, but with awareness. And that awareness will change everything. The next day did not feel different. The sun came up the same way. The room looked the same, but inside his head everything felt heavier. He went outside. People were walking fast. Everyone looked busy. Everyone looked like they knew where they were going. That feeling returned. I am slow. I am lost. I am behind. He remembered his school days. Back then, he compared grades. Who was smarter? Who finished first? Who teachers praised more? Later, it became something else. Who earns more money? Who speaks better English? Who lives in a better country? The comparison never ended. It only changed its clothes. He tried to ignore it, but comparison is quiet. It does not shout. It whispers. Look at him. Look at her. Why not you? Those words followed him everywhere, while eating, while walking, even while resting. At night, he felt tired, not physically, mentally. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the versions of himself he never became. He thought about the time he wasted, the chances he missed, the fear that stopped him. And then guilt came. Guilt for not starting earlier, guilt for not being stronger, guilt for not being brave enough. His chest felt tight, his breath slow. He picked up his phone again, scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. More success stories, more motivation quotes, more people saying you can do it. But instead of motivation, he felt pressure. Why am I not like them? Then something unexpected happened. He saw an old man sitting on a bench, quiet, calm, watching people pass. The old man was not rich, not famous, not important to the world, but he looked peaceful. That confused the boy. How can someone have so little and still look so calm? He sat on the other end of the bench, not to talk, just to sit. Minutes passed. Silence stayed. Then the old man spoke, not loudly, not dramatically. He said one sentence. Most people suffer not because they have nothing, but because they keep looking at what others have. That sentence hit deep. The boy did not reply. He did not need to. For the first time, he understood something important. Comparison does not push you forward. It drains you slowly. That moment did not fix his life, but it planted a seed, and that seed will grow. After that day, the boy started noticing things he never noticed before. Not big things, small, quiet things. He noticed how people smiled on the outside and carried storms inside. He noticed how success looked loud, but peace looked silent. He kept thinking about the old man, about that sentence. It stayed with him. Most people suffer not because they have nothing, but because they keep looking at what others have. He tested this idea, not in a big way, in small moments. When he saw someone better than him, he did not insult himself. He paused. He said, "That is their path. This is mine." It felt strange, unnatural. For years, his mind was trained to compare. Comparison was automatic, like breathing. Now, he was trying to unlearn it. Some days he failed badly. He would fall back into old habits, scrolling again, judging himself again, feeling small again. But something was different now. He noticed it faster. Before, comparison controlled him without permission. Now, he could see it coming, and seeing something gives you power. He started remembering his own story, not the story he compared, his real story, where he started, what he survived, what he learned alone. He remembered nights when nobody helped him, days when nobody believed in him. Those moments mattered, even if nobody applauded. He understood something important. You cannot compare invisible struggles. Everyone hides pain. Everyone edits their life. He thought about English, how long it took him to understand simple words, how many times he felt stupid, and yet, here he was, still learning, still trying, not fast, but honest. That honesty felt lighter. He stopped asking, why am I not there yet? He started asking, am I moving forward today? That question changed everything. Progress became personal, not public. He began setting small goals, tiny goals, 1 page, 1 word, 1 minute, no comparison, just movement. And slowly, very slowly, the noise in his head became quieter, not gone, but weaker. Peace did not arrive like a miracle. It arrived like a habit, built daily. That night, he slept better, not because his life changed, but because his direction did. And for the first time, he felt something rare, enough. The boy did not wake up as a new person. No dramatic change, no sudden confidence. He still felt fear, he still felt doubt. But something small had shifted inside him. That morning, he did something different. He did not touch his phone right away. He sat on the edge of his bed, quiet, breathing. His mind tried to rush. It tried to remind him of everyone ahead of him, but he noticed it, and noticing was new. He stood up slowly. The mirror showed the same face, same eyes, same tired look. But instead of judging himself, he simply looked. No insults. No pressure, just a human looking at himself. That felt strange. Outside, the world moved fast, as always. Cars, people, noise. He walked without music, without distraction. For the first time, he paid attention to his own steps. Not how fast others were walking, not who passed him, just his steps. Left, right. He realized something uncomfortable. He had been living his whole life in reaction, reacting to others, reacting to timelines that were not his. That made him tired, at work or study, or whatever place he was in. He still felt pressure, still felt behind. But now, when the thought came, you are late, he asked a question back. Late for what? Late for who? There was no clear answer. That silence mattered. During the day, he failed many times. He compared again. He felt envy again. But instead of drowning in it, he named it. This is comparison. Naming it made it smaller. At night, he wrote something. Not a plan, not a dream list. Just one sentence. Today I showed up. That was it. The next days followed the same pattern. Some good, some bad. Some days he felt strong. Other days he felt useless. But one thing stayed consistent. He kept coming back, not to motivation, to honesty. He stopped lying to himself about being fine, and stopped attacking himself for not being perfect. That balance was new. He started understanding something painful but freeing. Life is not fair, and it never promised to be. Some people start ahead, some start later, some start tired. That does not make them weak. He remembered his past again, not with shame this time, with respect. He saw a boy who kept going, even when nothing made sense. That boy deserved patience. One evening, the comparison voice came back loud, very loud. It told him, you wasted too much time. He listened, then replied quietly, I am still here. That answer mattered, because quitting would have been easier, and he did not quit. Slowly, his definition of success changed. It was no longer applause, no longer money first. It became this: waking up, trying again, being honest with himself. Not impressive, but real. He understood something many never do. Most pain comes from fighting reality. The moment you stop fighting where you are, you can finally move. He was not confident yet, not fearless, but he was grounded. And grounding comes before growth. This was not the end of comparison. It never fully disappears. But now it had competition. Awareness. And awareness changes everything. Slowly, quietly, permanently. Days continued to pass. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Life did not suddenly become kind. Problems did not disappear. Doubt still visited him. Sometimes early, sometimes late at night. But one thing had changed. He stopped running from his thoughts. Before, whenever his mind became heavy, he escaped. Into his phone, into noise, into pretending everything was fine. Now he stayed. When a thought appeared, I'm not good enough. He did not panic. He did not argue. He observed it. He realized something important. Thoughts are not commands. They are visitors. Some visitors lie. Some exaggerate. Some repeat old stories. And his mind had been telling the same story for years. You are late. You missed your chance. Others are better. That story felt familiar, comfortably painful. One afternoon, while walking alone, he asked himself a hard question. What if this story is wrong? The question scared him. Because if it was wrong, then all the suffering built on it was unnecessary. He remembered moments from his past. Times he kept going when quitting made sense. Times he learned without guidance. Times he stood alone. Those moments never appeared on social media, but they shaped him. He noticed how comparison ignored effort. It only looked at results, never at cost. He started to respect effort, even when results were small. At night, instead of scrolling endlessly, he wrote again. Not goals, not dreams, reflections. Today, I felt weak. Today, I impaired myself again. Today, I still tried. Writing made things clearer. What stays in the head grows louder. What goes on paper becomes manageable. Some days he felt proud, other days disappointed. But now disappointment did not destroy him. It informed him. He began to understand the difference between guilt and responsibility. Guilt says, you are broken. Responsibility says, you are here. What now? That shift changed his energy. He stopped waiting for confidence to start. He acted without it. He studied when he felt dumb. He worked when he felt slow. He showed up when motivation was absent. And something unexpected happened. Confidence followed action, not the other way around. Very slowly, he still saw people ahead of him. That did not change. But instead of shrinking, he felt curiosity. What can I learn? Not why am I behind? This mindset did not make him special. It made him stable. One night, he looked at the ceiling again, like before. But this time, he was not listing failures. He was acknowledging survival. I am still here. That sentence became his anchor. The world did not clap. No one noticed his internal growth. And that was okay. Because this journey was no longer about being seen. It was about becoming solid. Part 3 was not about success. It was about building ground. And without ground, nothing grows. Something subtle began to change in the boy's daily life. Not outside, inside. He started noticing his reactions. How fast his mood changed based on small things. A comment, a look, a memory. Before, these things controlled his entire day. Now, they still affected him, but they no longer owned him. One morning, he failed at something small. A mistake. Nothing serious. Earlier, that would have ruined his confidence. It would have turned into a long list of self-attacks. You always mess things up. This is why you will never succeed. But this time, he paused. He felt the disappointment. He did not push it away. Then he asked himself quietly, is this a moment or a meaning? That question mattered. He realized how often he turned moments into meanings. One failure became proof of being useless. One delay became proof of being behind in life. That habit was exhausting. He began separating facts from stories. The fact, I made a mistake. The story, I am a failure. He stopped accepting stories automatically. During the day, he saw someone succeed. Someone younger, someone faster. The old feeling returned. That tightness in the chest. That silent shame. But instead of collapsing into it, he stayed present. He reminded himself, I'm seeing one frame, not the whole movie. People do not show their nights, their doubts, their private losses. He thought about how many times he smiled while feeling broken inside. That thought softened him. Toward others. Toward himself. He stopped treating life like a race. Because races have finish lines. And life does not. He understood something difficult but freeing. There is no final point where you suddenly feel complete. No permanent arrival. There is only direction, and direction can be chosen every day. He began to build routines, not aggressive ones, gentle ones. Wake up, move a little, learn a little, rest without guilt. Resting without guilt was the hardest part. For years, rest felt like laziness, like falling behind. Now, he learned that a tired mind lies more. On some evenings, the comparison voice returned strong, very strong. It reminded him of time, age, deadlines that society invented. He listened, then answered calmly, "I am not late. I am becoming." Those words were not motivational. They were honest. He stopped, waiting for permission to take his own pace. He accepted that growth is not loud. It does not announce itself. It happens quietly, while no one is watching. One night, he realized something else. He was no longer angry at himself. Disappointed, sometimes. Frustrated, often. But not hateful. That was progress. Self-hatred had been his fuel for years. It pushed him, but it also poisoned him. Now, he was learning a new fuel. Self-respect. Self-respect does not shout. It whispers. You matter even when you fail. That changed how he treated himself on hard days. He stopped asking life to be easy. He asked himself to be present. And presence made pain lighter. Part 4 was not dramatic. No breakthrough moment. No celebration. Just quiet strengthening. Like roots growing underground. Unseen. Slow. Necessary. And those roots were preparing him for something bigger than comparison, than fear, than doubt. The story was moving forward, even when it felt still. One day, without realizing it, the boy woke up feeling less heavy, not happy, not excited, just lighter. That surprised him. For so long, mornings felt like weight, like carrying unfinished lives on his back. This morning was different. He noticed how his breath felt deeper, how his chest was not as tight. Small signs, easy to ignore, but he did not ignore them. He had learned that small changes matter most. During the day, something unexpected happened. He failed again. A real failure, something he cared about. The old version of him would have collapsed, would have replayed it for days, would have turned it into proof. But now, the pain passed differently. It still hurt, but it did not define him. He allowed himself to feel disappointed. Then he moved on. That was new. He realized that strength is not about avoiding pain. It is about not building a home inside it. Later that evening, he saw someone he once compared himself to. Same age, much further ahead. The comparison instinct appeared immediately. But instead of shrinking, he felt something else. Acceptance. Not approval. Not indifference. Acceptance. Their life was theirs. His life was his. No fight. No judgment. He understood something deeply. Comparison is a form of resistance. Resistance to your own reality. And reality does not change when you resist it. It only hurts more. He started measuring his days differently. Not by productivity. Not by results. By honesty. Did I try? Did I avoid lying to myself? Did I respect my limits today? Some days the answers were no. And that was okay. Because honesty created stability, and stability created momentum. He became more patient with his learning, especially with English. He stopped rushing fluency, stopped feeling ashamed of mistakes. Mistakes became signs of effort, not stupidity. He remembered how many times he almost quit, how many times he felt slow, and yet, he was still learning. That mattered. One night, he looked at old messages, old goals, old promises to himself. Some were broken, some delayed. Instead of guilt, he felt compassion. You did what you could with what you knew. That sentence felt like forgiveness. He realized he had been punishing a past version of himself for not knowing what the future would require. That was unfair. He let that version rest. The future no longer felt like a threat. It felt open, unclear, uncertain, but not hostile. He stopped chasing motivation. He built discipline slowly, kind discipline. Show up, do a little, stop before burnout. That balance kept him consistent. Part 5 was about release. Releasing old timelines, old comparisons, old punishments, not all at once, but enough to breathe. He was not ahead. He was not behind. Time did not stop. Days continued to move forward, and slowly, the boy began to trust time again. Before, time felt like an enemy, always chasing him, always reminding him of age, of missed chances, of deadlines he never agreed to. Now, time felt different, not kind, but neutral. He stopped asking time to wait for him. He started walking with it. Some mornings he felt focused, other mornings foggy, and he accepted both. He understood something important. Consistency is not perfection. It is return. Return after distraction. Return after doubt. Return after failure. That understanding saved him. One afternoon, he sat alone again. Same quiet place. Same silence. But he was not the same person who sat there before. His thoughts still came, but they no longer attacked. They reported, "I feel insecure today. I feel slow today." No drama, no panic, just information. He started respecting his inner world. Not every thought deserved attention. Not every emotion needed action. That skill took time. He noticed how often people around him were running without knowing why, chasing labels, chasing approval. He felt sympathy because he had been there. He realized that most people are not confident. They are just distracted. He stopped seeking validation, not because he became strong, but because he became tired of needing it. That tiredness was healthy. He began choosing depth over speed, understanding over showing, progress over praise, in learning, in work, in life. Some days were boring, very boring, but boring days built stability, and stability built trust. He no longer waited for inspiration. He created routines that carried him. When motivation disappeared, at night, the old fear sometimes returned. The fear of being average, of being invisible. He sat with it. He asked himself quietly, what is wrong with being human? That question changed his relationship with ambition. He no longer wanted to be impressive. He wanted to be real. Real effort, real growth, real peace. He understood that comparison feeds on distance. Distance from yourself. The closer you are to your own life, the quieter comparison becomes. He paid attention to his values, not what looks good, what feels right. Helping quietly, learning honestly, resting when needed. These choices did not make headlines, but they made him stable. One evening, he caught himself smiling, not because something great happened, but because nothing bad was happening inside. Silence replaced noise. He remembered the old man on the bench, that calm presence. Now he understood. Peace is not something you get. It is something you stop disturbing. Part 6 was not about growth. It was about grounding deeper, and grounded people do not rush. They move when they are ready. There was a time when silence scared him, when being alone with his thoughts felt dangerous. Too many memories, too many what-ifs. Now, silence felt different, not empty, honest. He started spending time alone on purpose, walking without direction, sitting without distraction. In those moments, he noticed how his mind worked, how it jumped to the future, how it rewrote the past. He learned to bring it back, to the step he was taking, to the breath he was breathing. Presence became practice. One day, he made a decision that seemed small. He stopped explaining himself to everyone. Before, he needed people to understand his pace, his choices, his delays. Now, he let that go. He realized that misunderstanding is part of growth. Not everyone needs to get your journey. That gave him freedom. He noticed another change. He stopped comparing chapters. He understood that some people are in chapter 20, while he is in chapter 7, and that is not failure. That is order. He began trusting his process, even when it looked unimpressive from outside. He worked quietly, learned slowly, improved honestly. There were still bad days. Days when self-doubt returned. Days when the old voice said, "You are wasting your life." He listened, then replied calmly, "I am building it." That answer became stronger with time. He became more selective with information, less scrolling, less noise. Not because he became disciplined overnight, but because he noticed how noise affected his peace. Peace became valuable. He learned something painful. You cannot heal in the same environment. That keeps hurting you. So he adjusted, not perfectly, but intentionally. He respected his energy, stopped forcing productivity, started honoring focus. He accepted that growth includes rest, that slowing down is not quitting. One evening, he helped someone quietly, no credit, no audience, and that felt better than approval. He realized that meaning does not come from being ahead. It comes from being aligned with your values, with your limits, with your effort. Part 7 was about maturity, not age. Understanding that life is not a competition. It is a responsibility, and he was finally taking responsibility, without shame, without fear, without comparison. One morning, the boy noticed something strange. He was not in a hurry. The world around him was still rushing. People checking time, people chasing deadlines, but inside him, there was space. Not confidence, not excitement. Space. He realized how rare that feeling was. For years, his mind was always ahead, running to futures that did not exist yet, dragging fears from the past. Now, he was here. He began to enjoy ordinary moments, drinking water slowly, walking without thinking of results. These moments used to feel pointless. Now, they felt grounding. He understood something quietly powerful. Peace is not found at the finish line. It is found in presence. That day, he faced a decision, a choice that would have terrified him before, not because it was big, but because it was honest. He chose what felt right, instead of what looked impressive. That choice did not bring applause, but it brought relief. He noticed how often people confuse pressure with purpose, how they call anxiety ambition. He no longer wanted to live like that. He accepted that he might never be the fastest, never the most visible, and that was fine. He was building something deeper. At night, doubt still visited. It always does. But doubt now sat quietly. It no longer screamed. He asked himself one simple question before sleep. Did I respect myself today? Some nights, the answer was no, and he did not punish himself. He adjusted. He realized that self-respect grows from small daily choices. Stopping when tired, starting when afraid. He stopped seeking dramatic change. He trusted slow transformation. He remembered the boy he once was, lost, comparing, ashamed, and he felt gratitude, not because the pain was good, but because it taught him direction. Part 8 was about calm, the kind that does not depend on success, the kind that stays during uncertainty, and that calm was becoming his foundation. As time passed, the boy began to notice something subtle. His reactions were slower, not slow in a bad way, slower in a thoughtful way. Before, emotions controlled his actions. A bad thought meant a bad day. A small mistake meant total collapse. Now, there was space between feeling and reaction. That space protected him. One day, someone questioned his path. Not cruelly, just casually. Why are you taking so long? That sentence would have destroyed him before. It would have replayed for days. This time, it landed differently. He felt the sting. Then he let it pass. He realized that other people speak from their own fears, from their own timelines, from their own insecurities. Their words were not maps, just noise. He no longer needed to defend his pace. He understood that comparison often hides as concern, as advice, as curiosity, but he stayed grounded. He focused on what he could control: effort, attention, consistency, nothing else. He stopped measuring himself against ideal versions. Those versions were never real anyway. He began accepting his current capacity, not as an excuse, as a starting point. That honesty reduced pressure. He learned to forgive slow days. Days when energy was low, days when progress felt invisible. He stopped calling those days failures. They were part of the rhythm. He noticed how calm attracted clarity. When the noise inside faded, decisions became easier, not perfect, but clearer. At night, he reflected without judgment. What worked? What didn't? No punishment, only adjustment. That habit made him steady. He realized something important. Life does not punish you for going slow. It punishes you for quitting. And he was not quitting. Part 9 was about resilience, quiet resilience, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that survives storms, by bending, not breaking, and that strength was becoming part of him. One evening, the boy realized something unexpected. He was no longer angry at the world. For a long time, anger had lived quietly inside him. Anger at himself, anger at timing, anger at people who seemed ahead. He never showed it, but it shaped his thoughts. Now, that anger was softer, not gone, but no longer sharp. He understood where it came from. Unmet expectations, borrowed dreams, timelines that were never his. Letting those go felt like setting down a heavy bag. He noticed how often he used to ask, "When will my life start?" That question changed his energy. He became more patient with uncertainty, stopped demanding clear answers from the future. He accepted that clarity comes after action, not before. Some days he moved forward, some days he stood still. Both were acceptable. He learned that rest is not the opposite of progress. Burnout is. So he rested with intention, without guilt. He stopped chasing constant improvement. He focused on sustainable growth. He realized something simple but deep. A calm mind learns faster. A kind mind lasts longer. He became more careful with his inner voice. Words matter, especially the ones you repeat to yourself. Instead of saying, "I am behind," he said, "I am on my way." That shift changed his posture, his breath, his focus. He stopped waiting for life to feel perfect before showing up. He showed up imperfect, and slowly, trust built. Trust in himself, trust in his pace. Part 10 was about release. Releasing anger, releasing pressure, releasing borrowed expectations. And in that release, he found space. Space to grow, space to learn, space to be human. The boy started noticing how often life tested him in quiet ways. Not with big failures, but with small temptations. The temptation to rush, to compare again, to abandon his pace. One morning, he felt old pressure return. A familiar voice saying, "You should be further by now." Instead of arguing, he listened. Then he asked a gentle question. Further compared to what? There was no answer. That silence became his guide. He learned that most pressure comes from imagined observers. People who are not watching, judging standards that were never agreed upon. He stopped performing his life. He began choosing consistency over intensity, slow work over dramatic effort. It was not exciting, but it was stable. He realized something honest. Most change feels boring while it's happening. Growth looks obvious only in hindsight. Some nights he doubted everything. Those nights did not disappear. But now, doubt did not control his decisions. It visited, then left. He noticed how far he had come emotionally, not externally. He reacted less, paused more. That was growth. He learned to sit with unanswered questions. Not every question needs resolution today. Patience became a skill, a learned one. He stopped chasing certainty. He accepted direction. He trusted himself to adjust along the way. Part 11 was about endurance. Staying without drama, continuing without applause, the kind of strength that carries you forward, even when no one is clapping. And that strength was becoming natural. There came a phase where nothing dramatic happened. No big wins, no big losses, just days. Ordinary days used to scare him, because ordinary days felt like proof that nothing was changing. Now, he saw them differently. Ordinary days were building days. He noticed how habits quietly shaped him, not the kind you post about, the invisible ones. Waking up even when he did not feel ready, starting even when confidence was missing, stopping before exhaustion took over. These were not heroic acts, but they were honest. He realized that most people wait for a feeling to begin. He stopped waiting. He began before feeling ready, and that changed his relationship with fear. Fear was still there, but it no longer sat in the driver's seat. Some mornings, his mind felt heavy again. Thoughts like shadows, long and quiet. Instead of fighting them, he acknowledged them. "I see you." That alone reduced their power. He learned something subtle. Resistance feeds anxiety. Acceptance starves it. He did not accept defeat. He accepted reality. And from reality, he moved. He noticed how comparison tried to return in new forms. Not obvious anymore. More intelligent. You should be doing more. You should already know this. Others are progressing faster. These thoughts sounded reasonable. That made them dangerous. He learned to question tone, not content. Was the voice helpful or harmful? If it pushed him with respect, he listened. If it shamed him, he ignored it. That distinction protected his energy. He started tracking effort instead of outcome. Minutes spent learning, attempts made, days returned after falling off. Those numbers mattered more than results. Results fluctuate. Effort compounds. Slowly, he began trusting compound effort. He remembered how many times he quit things in the past. Not because he failed, but because progress was invisible. Now, he stayed longer. He allowed himself to be bad at things. Really bad. That humility freed him. He noticed something ironic. The moment he stopped trying to prove himself, he actually improved faster. Pressure had been slowing him down all along. He stopped multitasking his life. One task at a time, one step at a time. Focus became sacred. Distraction lost its shine. At night, he no longer needed noise to sleep. Silence did not threaten him anymore. He reflected without judgment, adjusted without drama. He accepted that healing is not linear. Some days felt like going backward, but backward days did not erase forward ones. He learned to zoom out. A bad day is not a bad life. A slow week is not a failed journey. That perspective gave him patience. He became gentler with himself when tired, stricter with himself when avoiding. That balance took time. He no longer confused comfort with peace. Scrolling felt comfortable, but it drained him. Effort felt uncomfortable, but it grounded him. He chose grounding. He also noticed how his relationships changed. Less explaining, less proving, more listening, more presence. People felt his calm, even when they did not understand his path. He stopped chasing approval, not because he rejected people, but because he accepted himself. That acceptance did not make him arrogant. It made him stable. One evening, he realized something quietly powerful. He trusted himself. Now, not blindly, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to keep going, without constant reassurance. Enough to fail, without falling apart. Enough to continue, even when progress felt slow. Part 12 was about integration. Everything he learned before was no longer something he practiced. It was something he lived. And when growth becomes identity, it no longer feels heavy. It feels natural. He was still on the journey, still unfinished, still learning. But now, he was walking with himself, not against himself. And that made all the difference. There came a moment when the boy noticed. He was no longer afraid of slow days. Before, slow days felt dangerous, like slipping backward, like wasting time. Now, he understood them as recovery days, integration days, days where nothing grows outward, but roots grow deeper. He began trusting the quiet phases. He noticed how life tested him differently now, not with chaos, but with comfort. Comfort tried to pull him back into old patterns, mindless habits, easy distractions. He stayed aware, not rigid. Aware. He allowed rest, but not escape. That distinction mattered. He reflected on how much pressure he once put on himself to become someone fast, anyone, as long as it looked successful. Now, he was more interested in becoming aligned than impressive. That changed his decisions. He stopped overcommitting, stopped saying yes out of fear. He chose fewer things, with more attention. Quality replaced quantity. He noticed something subtle. His self-talk had changed tone. It was no longer cruel, no longer dramatic. It sounded reasonable, supportive. You can learn this. It's okay to be slow. Just keep going. That voice felt new, but reliable. He realized how powerful internal language is. You live inside it every day. Changing it changed his experience of life. He no longer chased certainty. He accepted uncertainty as part of growth. He understood that confidence does not come from knowing everything will work out. It comes from trusting yourself to respond when it doesn't. That realization grounded him. He began preparing instead of worrying. Small preparation, daily effort. Worry lost its purpose. He noticed how rarely he compared. now, not because others disappeared, but because he felt anchored. Anchored people don't drift. He felt more present in conversations, less distracted, less rushed. People felt that. Not everyone liked it. Calm can make restless people uncomfortable. He accepted that too. He was no longer trying to be liked by everyone. He learned that maturity is choosing peace, even when ego wants noise. Part 13 was about self-trust, not loud confidence, quiet reliability, the kind that shows up, day after day, without drama, and that trust was becoming his new normal. The boy began to realize something important. His life no longer felt like something he was waiting to enter. He was already inside it. Before, he lived in preparation mode, always getting ready, always planning to begin. Now, beginning had become normal. He noticed how often people live for one day. One day it will be confident. One day it will be calm. One day it will feel ready. He stopped postponing his life like that. He allowed himself to be imperfect, in real time. That freedom changed his posture, how he walked, how he spoke, how he listened. He noticed how peace changed his ambition. It did not kill it, it refined it. He no longer wanted success at any cost. He wanted growth he could sustain. He became more intentional with his energy. Not everything deserved his attention. He learned to say no, without guilt, without explanation. That was difficult, but necessary. He noticed something else. He was no longer proving anything to his past. The regret was still there, sometimes, but it no longer ruled him. He accepted that he could not rewrite old chapters, only read them with compassion. That acceptance felt like closure. He realized how much of his suffering came from resisting where he was. Now, he worked with reality, not against it. He noticed how often clarity came after action. Never before. He stopped waiting to feel ready. Readiness came through movement. He trusted that mistakes would teach him faster than hesitation ever could. Part 14 was about embodiment, living what he learned, not thinking about it. His growth was no longer a concept. It was behavior, quiet, consistent, unforced, and that made it strong. One day, the boy looked back, not to regret, not to judge, just to observe. He saw the version of himself who woke up tired before the day even began, the one who measured his worth by other people's lives, the one who thought peace would arrive after success. He did not feel shame for that boy. He felt respect. That boy survived confusion, comparison, loneliness, and he kept going. The boy understood something clearly now. Growth did not happen in big moments. It happened in quiet decisions, made repeatedly, choosing not to scroll, choosing to rest, choosing to try again. After failing silently, no one applauded those choices. That was fine. He no longer needed an audience. He noticed that confidence had arrived, without announcing itself. Not loud, not arrogant, just steady. He trusted his ability to handle life. Now, not perfectly, but honestly. He stopped asking life to be easy. He asked himself to be present. That made challenges lighter. Comparison still existed somewhere in the world, but it no longer lived inside him. He understood that someone will always be ahead. Someone will always be behind. That truth stopped bothering him, because his focus had shifted from outcome to direction, from image to integrity. He was no longer chasing a version of himself that existed only to impress others. He was becoming someone he could live with every day, and that mattered more. The boy did not become famous. He did not suddenly win. He did not arrive, but he became grounded, and grounded people do not collapse. When life shakes them, they adjust, they breathe, they continue. This story did not begin with success, and it did not end with success. It began with awareness, and it ended with alignment. The boy learned to walk his own path, without rushing, without comparing, without abandoning himself. And that was enough. Not because he stopped wanting more, but because he stopped hating where he was. That is how real change happens. Quietly, slowly, from the inside. We followed a boy who woke up every day weighed down by comparison, anxiety, and feelings of not being enough. He traveled a difficult mental path, from self-criticism and constant comparison to moments of calm, awareness, and slow growth. He learned that true peace and progress don't come from comparing yourself to others, but from honest effort, accepting your own path, and noticing even the smallest steps forward. He realized life is not a race. Everyone has their own journey. True value comes from movement, consistency, and inner peace. From fear and pressure, he moved toward calm and real confidence, not loud or rushed, but steady and genuine. If this story inspired you, give yourself the space to walk your own path with honesty and patience. Take small steps every day, put effort into your growth, and honor your inner journey.